are you both?
Well, I'll speak first. I just want to say I'm unprepared. I was really intrigued by the topic, and I tried writing poetry. I did find one of my favorites that I would like to read, but I'm going to be more of a listener tonight
I think
because
that's
my
totally
poetry
fine.
was terrible.
Participating in poetry, we need people to respond to and be an audience for, and we need people to write. And there is a civilization's worth of written poetry already, so we could never write another and just find stuff on theme to read. So no pressure.
I also
know, but it's such a nice opportunity. I know you're involved in other poetry things, and so is Jamie, but this is my first, and I just no. I'm letting
Darcy,
work.
do you mind me asking why you think what you started writing was terrible?
I had the feeling of what I wanted and what I was sort of the imagery and the feeling, but I couldn't. What I wrote seemed it didn't match the feeling. Let me put it that way. So that's why
Gotcha.
terrible in the sense that as being what I consider myself at least artistic, and that I feel that I normally can express myself a little more closely to the feeling that I'm trying to express than what it came out. I tried several things, and I tried working in the car on the way home and thinking, and I don't know. It was just one of those.
Okay.
Thanks for asking, though. That's a good
Yeah,
question.
thanks for sharing. Yeah, I'm
It
always
sounds
curious about. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
It sounds like a success story. You spent some time wrestling with something poetic.
Hmm.
I had exactly the same experience, Darcy, this week. Started writing some lines, and it did not gel at all.
Harry, I want you to know I really appreciated your I can't think of the word I want right now, but the constraint on not using emotional words in a love piece. That was, and then, like you said, with the X, it could have been sign and symbol as well. That was really amazing because it communicated so much, but without ever an emotional word at all.
Yeah.
So thank you everybody for being here. Welcome. Do you know if we're expecting Jamie or not? Not that I need to put onus on you. I just thought you might know.
No, I don't actually.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not trying to make you check on him. I'm just asking if you know.
It was Siblings Day week, though.
That's right. Yeah, like a couple of days ago, right?
Well, one of the things I wanted to write about was Jamie, because being a twin, yes, being a twin, there's a kind of loneliness that I discovered once I realized that we were not the same person. It's hard maybe for someone to understand, but when we were younger, it seemed like, of course, he knew everything I was thinking because we were communicating without words. And then later we were communicating with words, but it seemed like it's just that realization of self. And it didn't occur to me until first grade that we were not thinking the same way.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had a question about that. Like, if you're a twin, is it possible to be alone?
Well, I guess what I found was a great loneliness in realizing that we weren't that, in other words, realizing that it was just the realization that we are alone. It was a profound realization of aloneness. So yes, I would say yes.
Or to put that another way, could a twin understand aloneness the same way as somebody who's not a twin?
I think more deeply. I think that's exactly what I'm trying to get at. Like,
Yeah.
there's a kind of aloneness that comes from realizing, from having the perception of the opposite, that this other person is so bound to you and you're so together. And
There's
then
lust
there's the
effect.
pain of loneliness of realizing, oh my gosh, it was a misperception all along. We've always been alone.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sort of maybe the Buber, you know, or no, oh, I'm sorry, I can't think of who I mean right now. Oh, I know, Kazantzakis.
Nico.
Nikos Kazantzakis, yes, that we are born alone and die alone.
Could I read a poem? I think it's apropos.
Yeah, Harry's going to read one.
It's really one or two lines.
But it's
from
72 words, so we're fine.
John Donne. I just picked it out of a quote out of context completely, but it's part of a bigger poem, I suspect. But I wonder, by my troth, what thou and I did till we loved. It seems to me that that's a poem about loneliness in the past, kind of thing, you know? And it just popped up, and I go, whoa, okay, that's about loneliness or aloneness.
I like that a lot. It's like through the lens of non-loneliness, can we come to know loneliness?
Would you read it again?
Sure. I wonder, by my troth, what thou and I did till we loved.
I'll read one without a title. In the lost and lingering lonely hours, while the sun still slumbered silently, a lone bird gave voice to all loneliness, singing into the unreturning dark. It struggled and twice tried. No reply, no light, no friend, no singing, journeying through the moonless loneliness to meet, to greet, to love.
Wow. Okay. Again, I think that with poems, it's hard to get it the first time, at least for me.
I didn't title this. In the lost and lingering lonely hours, while the sun still slumbered silently, a lone bird gave voice to all loneliness, singing into the unreturning dark. It struggled and twice tried. No reply, no light, no friend, no singing, journeying through the moonless loneliness to meet, to greet, to love.
Wow. Jeez Louise.
Thank you.
One of your more clear and understandable poems.
Is that a plus?
For me.
Sarah asked me to read this one tonight. It's called Meditative Pause, Take 2, Version 1. Water dancers break the tension. Alone and solitary, and alone, first lily breaks to the surface, breaks to through the surface. Alone, alone, browned and brittled, forlorn, cattail reeds, no green despair, and there is where last summer went. Rotting leaves, colors leached save for browns. The earth will receive you home, but first wear these, her tones. And here is where this summer becomes. Neath the pond's lens, amidst the muck and detritus, pairing birds call out or cry, building or stealing new nests. Repairing birds caw or shrill or whistle or click or lilt or scree or appealing, gilding or healing old nests. And all of life and nature too, and due to you, you mind, oh mine, is as before, lost to me, lost to me.
Oh, jeez.
So maybe just a few thoughts here on the topic. So I wrote a bunch of themes out, and I don't know how to describe these where I give you 2 words, but I'm sure I'll figure something out. But I think if you write a poem about drowning, you are writing about being parched, even if it's not even hinted at or thought about by the author. Right? To write of the sun is to write of the night. And so some of these I've paired, like today, loneliness and aloneness, because I think, if you're writing about loneliness, you are writing about aloneness. And if you are writing about aloneness, you're writing about loneliness. Even if you're writing about aloneness is about how you aren't lonely at all, you're still writing about loneliness. And so they're not exactly like a yin-yang pair or one without the other. And the idea isn't to write about one or the other. It's just to give you both words to consider. And my thought with the themes is that the themes don't have to include the words of the themes. Like if you're just pondering this idea, what comes to you? It may not, be about, it may be born of the idea, but not so much be about the idea. I don't know. So anyway, I think that when we think about loneliness, we think about a response that we have to aloneness, and that aloneness might not even be real. Right? It might not be objective or factual, but it might be a feeling. Like, for example, if you are in a room full of lawyers and you're, a painter, you might feel lonely, even though objectively, like, hey, I'm at a cocktail party with 60 people in a crowded place. Like, I am lonely. So I think it's a response to a view of being alone, which might be backed up by the facts. So I rather think it's the way that people talk about bravery, and bravery is not an absence of fear. It's an experience of fear with a particular response to fear. So bravery is a way of being in the face of fear. It's not, it appears to be a lack of fear, but it's actually a response to fear. Mm. And so I think in the same way, loneliness is a response to apparent or actual aloneness. And when we have the word aloneness in contrast to loneliness, we have a sense of separateness, right? Not togetherness, but not suffering from it, because lonely sounds like a suffering.
Wow.
Right. So like if I gave you the word outcast, it gives you a picture right away. And if I give you the word hermit, it also gives you a picture right away. And both of them are kind of objectively describing the same thing, but one sounds like painful or suffering in some way, and the other doesn't. All right. So one would be suffering from loneliness, maybe, and one is enjoying aloneness, for example.
Mm-hmm. Like one's from within and one's from without.
Right. So, and that's why I say it's a response to the view of things, and the view of things might be supported by facts. One thought about loneliness is like, when the sun goes behind the earth and it's night, some hours later the sun will return. And when we have loneliness, it might be like the sun setting, and at some point there's a return to non-aloneness, right? A coming together of whatever. Whereas somebody that's depressed might describe themselves as alone, whether factually or not. And they might certainly describe themselves as dark, right? But there's no sense that the sun will come back up. whether or not it factually will, there's no sense that the sun will come back up. So there's this sort of broken loneliness or acute loneliness. Thoughts or responses?
I think that I have a nice segue poem for that. And it's hard for me to put my finger on why this poem is about loneliness, but or aloneness. It's about separateness to me and also about death, but it's, as you have determined, I love E.E. Cummings. And this is another one of my favorites. And to me, it's more about aloneness. It sounds like a love, it's actually amore. 6, but well, let me see what you think. I have a particular perspective in which I'm hearing things now, and this one, yeah, I think it somehow fits with that, with what you were saying about the opposite, because it sounds like he's adoring someone, but it really, to me, is emphasizing the aloneness, not loneliness, but the aloneness and separateness of life.
And you said it's called agape or amore?
Amore. 6. O distinct lady of my unkempt adoration, if I have made a certain if I have made a fragile certain song under the window of your soul, it is not like any songs. The singers, the others, they have been faithful to many things and which die. I have been sometimes true to nothing and which lives. They were fond of the handsome moon, never spoke ill of the pretty stars, and to the serene, the complicated, and the obvious, they were faithful, and which I despise, frankly, admitting I have been true only to the noise of worms in the eligible day, under the unaccountable sun. Distinct lady, swiftly take my fragile certain song, that we may watch together how behind the doomed exact smile of life's placid, obscure, palatable carnival, where to a normal melody of probable violins dance the square virtues and the oblong sins, perfectly gestulate the the acute. Oh my gosh, the accurate. Wow, that's so weird. I'm looking right at it. Melody of
what was the word after perfectly? What was the word after perfectly?
Yeah, I'm going to start that stanza. Carnival, where to a normal melody of probable violins dance the square virtues and the oblong sins, perfectly gestulate the accurate, strenuous lips of incorruptible nothing, under the ample sun, under the insufficient day, under the noise of worms. Oh, I love that poem.
That's why we're doing this, Darcy. Under the insufficient day. That sounds so amazing to me.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Under the ample sun, under the insufficient day, under the noise of worms. Ah, see, I've been thinking about this one, like E. Cummings. Actually, since Jamie gave me the collected E. Cummings works in 1976, and I fell asleep in the rain reading it and ruined the book. And it was like this. It was terrible because it was just, but it was such a I was so turned on by the poetry. I fell asleep in the outside, you know.
That sounds like a poem in itself.
It does. It's no wonder he didn't come to the class tonight, since he's still stewing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. What was funny is I only recently threw it away. it took me, 50 years to let go of that book. I carried it around with me everywhere.
Aw.
But the cover got molded, so I took the cover off and just had the book. But he never wanted it back after that.
That's pretty good. Thank you for that. Were you gonna say one too, Harry? Or no? Did that something else came up? I forgot.
I have another sort of one-liner.
Okay.
But this just is actually it's not really a poem, but I paraphrase something that Patricia's grandmother said to her.
Oh, nice.
I have 103 years. I sometimes wonder if God has forgotten me. I really like that.
That's really an amazing.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. Wow. I can completely understand that. Wow. I sometimes wonder if God is, and I'll bet that the author played it down. I bet the wondering is not sometimes. Like I bet it's all the time, but they played it down.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's just my bet anyway.
Well, sort of related to what you were saying. If you're writing about the sun, you're writing about the darkness. Sometimes.
So, yeah. So I thought I would read one. This is called "Save for the Moon," and it hints at some ideas that we hear in ancient China, which is that the drunk sage or the drunk fool, who may be the same, notices in the water at night, so the pond, the stream, the ocean, that the moon is drowning. And out of an abundance of kindness and also drunkenness, gets a bucket to save the moon. And then we have this kind of Sisyphean problem that follows. So anyway, I'm referencing that, and this is called Save for the Moon. So not Save the Moon. I saved the moon from drowning last night. She seemed brave, never crying out. I raced to the pond with an older cooper's old bucket. Sunlight often filtered through her. I trod, squished into and up to my knees into the mud, hiding under reeds, hiding water's edge. I thought I heard Basho, too. Wine speaks in darkness. I scooped her up and cooed. Carefully and less hurriedly, I hurried back, checking she was there when whispering to her that I care. Empathy can be some effort for a loner, for a quiet one when in hermitage. Come morning, I brought her flower tea. I let the steam roll off its quickness, then took it to her. A finch was there to see me say good morning. She'd gone, leaked away, no doubt, gone home to soil. The same way the moon hides the days away in bright, in blue, in light.
Ooh, nice last lines.
All right, I'll just read the next one here instead of, this doesn't have a title. A vacuum, eternally expanding, nothing giving birth to more nothing. The sparse growing rare until not a mote is there. No water anywhere, and certainly no air. The emptiness profound and complete. Somehow, some hydrogen huddles together somewhere, and some other hydrogen cuddles together over there. An immensity of density in time, and a flame is lit, only to consume itself in time, light born of shadow. Some billions of years adrift in the frigid loneliness of eternal blackness, somehow will come to pass, the tiniest flicker in the ocean of empty. destined to articulate hope, if anyone might look there. So I guess one was about the moon, one was about the sun. I have a lot of poems that reference Basho, so that was a fun one to get to. So this one's called Zafu. Everybody knows what Zafu is?
No.
That's the meditation cushion in Zen meditation. That's sort of black. Picture like a donut without a hole. So this is titled Zafu. I have a series of poems that are called Sifu Zafu. Noticing lonelinesses, I sit in the sphere of mirrors. Let the incense spark to smoke and reduce to ash. Return to earth. The undying need not notice death, need not notice birth. So I thought if we could each offer a fragment of a poem of our own. So it could be a poem we've written, or a poem that we've abandoned, or a poem that we've just begun. So hopefully we can hear from everybody. Just to offer in a fragment of a poem. So a phrase, a turn of phrase, a stanza, whatever you have. Doesn't have to be on topic, just
I have a couplet that I started, wrote
Cool.
down. Are you ready for it? Or we're gonna send it somehow? Or?
I'm not sure if we're gonna like write them down or not. You know, I don't know.
All right. And though it's private, I'll let slip. I've need to seek companionship. I started playing with rhymes.
Yeah. Can we hear it again?
And though it's private, I'll let slip. I've need to seek companionship.
Sarah?
Yeah, hold on. Okay.
Thank you.
The moment of winter's breeze on skin has passed.
The moment of winter's breeze on skin has passed.
Yes.
Whoa. Is winter capitalized?
No.
I was just thinking, like, if it was capitalized, would that give it more agency? You know, like as a being.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, just what went through my head. Darcy? I wonder if she's logged off or muted.
Yes, I was muted. Sorry about that.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Just
okay. Bob Dylan. Loneliness got a mind of its own. The more people around, the more you feel alone.
yeah. Now, can you sing that? Would you sing it, please?
Yeah, right. No, but I thought that you know, it's such a good reference to New York. But feel alone is not feeling lonely.
Yes.
And I found a lot of comfort in being around 8 million people and being completely anonymous and insignificant. I found it
Right.
amazing. So it was a real aloneness that was inclusive,
Right.
everybody's alone and they know it there.
I'll offer this. I just kind of randomly pulled one up. It's just one line. Unseen feet, a sky without bones.
Mm.
Hmm.
Well, do you mind if I add on to that sort of a rhyme?
Yeah.
Unseen feet. Would you say it again? So I don't want to mess it up.
Unseen feet, a sky without bones.
They're sharing a drink they call loneliness, but it's better than drinking alone.
Paul Simon.
Billy Joel.
Oh, Billy Joel, right? That's right. Yeah. Nice.
Mr. Piano Man. Huh?
That's right. Yeah. So I had a couple of thoughts about offering words this week. So maybe we can read a couple more and then we can share some words. Since we just kind of shared a fragment, we can break it up. Does anybody have another to read? I have more, so I can offer more.
I do, and everybody knows this.
Okay.
I was gonna play it, actually. I was gonna bring the guitar and play it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to excerpt a couple of lines. A winter's day in a deep and dark December. I am alone, gazing from my window to the streets below on a freshly fallen silent shroud of snow. I am a rock. I am an island. And a rock feels no pain, and an island never cries.
I told you it was Paul Simon.
Yeah, there you go. That
I
was
was a
definitely
little early.
Mhm.
That's pretty cool. Thank you.
I have one to read.
Yay.
This is one interpretation of something Rilke wrote. Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves. Live the questions now, and perhaps gradually, without knowing it, live along some distant day into the answer.
Can we hear that a second time, Sarah?
Yeah.
Long some second day. It's great.
Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves. Live the questions now, and perhaps gradually, without knowing it, live along some distant day into the answer.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this is a don't know if I meant to read that one there. Yeah, I'm gonna read this. This is called Zendikant. So I enjoyed this title. It's a lot of wordplay in it. And the idea that I had was a monk in a temple and how many ways there are to arrive at that monk's place, which literally different paths, different routes, but also, how many different ways could somebody arrive at that state? And I was thinking how that in and of itself is perhaps hopeful or interesting, to people. But then I was thinking from the monk's point of view, sitting there with like basically innumerable paths coming to them, might that monk in their practice really just see all the paths away from where they are and what they're doing and how they are? You know, Edmund Hillary sees all the paths down the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Every path is a path off of the mountain. So anyway, that's what this poem is. It's called Zendikant. Everybody knows the term mendicant. Right? So this is just Zendikant. The hillock, the bell, the swept terraces, the swept mines, the whitewood hall, the reflecting pools, the reflecting mines, the weedless gardens both in brain and curtilage, the temple grounds, the temple gives flight, the temple sounds, bird wind, hush shuffle, the temple sounds, right. Some say all, I say many paths lead to these courtyards, follow flower flows, wending ways find one's way, the middle path, the wu wei way, many, many ways to find one way, to find one's way, to finally find, to unwend one's way home to mind, to no mind, silences, echoing off ohms, poverties, bowls cradling alms, quietudes and multitudes of balding bones, the chatterless babble of an unseen brook, Torii, lotus, grave marking Gorinto, stupa, murti, each here, each forsook, cherry, plum, and chrysanthemum, each a zafu seed, each a mustard seed, verdant lives once fallen as autumn leaves, needs, and for the nun, and for the monk, each path of pilgrim's footfall an invitation, a lure for the mind at least, if not the heart, to depart.
Mm.
So this one is also about kind of meditation and perhaps enlightenment or the efforts to drop the self. This, I didn't give a title, so perhaps just this one last abandonment. Yes, perhaps just this, if but my expectations might forsake me, if but one last leaving me, taking leave of me, if expectation could shoal wreck me, this relievedly be my last, this last abandonment.
Hmm. Okay, would you do that one again?
Yes. Perhaps just this one last abandonment. Yes, perhaps just this. If but my expectations might forsake me, if but one last leaving me, taking leave of me. If expectation could shoal wreck me, this relievedly be my last, the last, this last abandonment.
Hmm. Hmm.
Find one more here. So this is kind of referencing that same kind of thing that we referenced in the Save But for the Moon. I've no jug of wine, though a moth has alit on my brow. I've no hermitage, though the summer breeze scours and clears my between these ears. I have no mountaintop, no crane, I am turtleless. I have my cooling tea. I have the dead poets I live with. I have their poetry. I have my inchoatry, my rasp-edged poetry. Monks, hermits, sages haunt happily my heart and pages. So that one's this argument against loneliness in the face of aloneness.
Mm.
This one is called Writerless. Writer as an author, writerless. It's just 4 lines. Hermit tea, lonely poetry. Am I a hermit still if I don't write for me?
I think Darcy's muted still.
Sorry,
Darcy-
I keep doing that so I don't disturb, but it was, I think that the thing is with short poems, there's an expectation, of course, is the lens through which we fail to see the world. And somehow there's an expectation of maybe the poem being a bit longer so that, like, in other words, my expectation isn't of the end. And so I need to hear it again. It seems like it would be easier if it were shorter, but it keeps me up. So would you read it again?
I've already scrolled, so I don't know if I can find
Okay,
it
that's
again.
fine. I'm sorry to. It's just it
No,
is the
no,
short.
it's fine. I think I'm like 30 poems from there, and I don't know if I could find it. So I wouldn't mind it, but yeah, I was just looking for another in the list, and I don't know.
You don't remember it?
No, it's only 4 lines, but yeah, I got caught up in a giant list of stuff I wrote. It's in a larger series, so this one is about Hart Island in New York, in the Bronx. It's near City Island.
Oh, I don't know that.
It's used for city burials,
Oh.
but it had been a quarantine station and a psychiatric hospital and a tuberculosis ward and a reform school and a homeless shelter and a rehab facility and a jail and a military base.
Now I know where you mean, because they tried to make it immigrant encampment last year at about this time.
Yeah, so in 1869, they began using it as a public cemetery for people who died, indigent or unclaimed. And in 1991, all other uses of the island had ceased apart from the public cemetery. So this is called Potter's Field. They felt they knew that this earth was theirs. They felt they knew what value was. They felt they knew the invaluable parts of this land, and in their values, they took to saw and spade. They found the earth the water laid over uncounted seasons, day by decade, and dug down to the clay they laid claim to that the river laid down. When it was gone, they departed, making money and making art. The earth there was worthless, they'd say, unarable and barren. No farm could grow here. No words of wisdom, word of this earth would be heard here. In time, the holes would be filled, the valuable clay in the sea of dirt, sown now with pine board and skeletons, stoneless, flower beds unvisited this field. The worthless earth given over to those deemed worthless since birth, the criminals, the criminally impoverished, and the unknown. They saw no value there, and then they saw some value there, deposits. They stole the value they saw there, leaving wounds and emptiness. They saw no value there, then they saw some value there, deposits. They cashed away those with no cachet there, leaving wounds and loneliness. So, they eventually collected clay for artisans there. That's what the reference is, but I didn't give you the heads up. So I was hoping we could get some prompts from everybody. So if everybody could offer a word, maybe we can start with Sarah.
Home.
Did you say home?
Home.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Harry?
Climb.
Climb. So it's a treehouse. Got it. Darcy?
Settle.
Settle. Nice. So I thought that I would offer a pair of words this week and invite you to write. The pair of words please me no end, seeing them together. It's chocolate and echolocate.
Okay. Do you want us to do it spontaneously right now?
No. But bonus points if you don't mention bats.
Okay.
But I just thought, it's fun, and even just to be challenged by and have fun with it, whether or not you end up with something that you like, and maybe you just end up with a stanza or something.
My poem is called Chocolate the Dolphin.
Chocolate dolphin. It sounds like Toad the Wet Sprocket. That's pretty good. I think the first poem somebody read tonight mentioned unkempt, and we could have switched that to sprezzatura. It felt very close.
Chocolate and echolocate. Are they what do you call them when they're exactly?
No, they're not an anagram like that. Yeah. But I really enjoy seeing them together and thinking, are you going to stumble? So I thought that would be kind of a fun. Does anybody have a reading from another author? Whether on offer or not? Sounds like not. Right. Well, we're gonna finish up. Maybe I feel like I should read one more so that I had one about ice fishing. So I think I'll read this one that is definitely not complete. Yeah.
I was just thinking, did anybody write a poem about those colors without using color?
No, I saw it, Harry.
I started that also. Just like, oh boy, that was. I couldn't think of a theme to write, but I may get back to that. We'll see. That was very difficult.
Yeah.
I think this week's topics and constraint poem were just really difficult for me to come up with like any sense of feelings about them or thoughts about them.
So I'll read this, which is incomplete. It's called Ice Fishing Hole. So I'm open to any criticism or anything or offerings around it. I sit around the hole I've made in the heart of this pond's placidity, of all these placidities all around me, of all these placidities all surrounding all of me. I sit deep within this ramshackle shack of bones. The insulation's failed and the world's winds have found my heart. Catch and release at this icy fishing hole. Skaters glide past, calling delight to pale skies. A dog barks her worries at her new frozen paws. Somewhere, some geese honk past, resilient or lost, or both. I sit. There's a hole in the crust I've cut. The bucket and the list are empty. Patience and perseverance looks the same to anyone who might glimpse this loneliness from the outside. I know the outside isn't where it's at. I've drilled deep to seek the deep, to touch the unknown, but these darting, silvery fish are unpredictable. One never knows if they notice the hook I've placed, if they're ever interested at all in the bait, if they live at the depth I've guessed, if they'll get hooked or stay hooked. I've wondered, I've waited, I've looked. I feel myself cracking into sharp shards, panic hungry as my line is only ever empty, like storm clouds of sunshine.
Like storm clouds of sunshine. Wow.
Yeah, I feel like it took a turn there with that last phrase, and then it also like, slammed on the brakes for me. Like I thought it was just going, and then like, so I don't like how that ending is, but I don't feel like if I excise it, then I'll keep going anyway. So I just kind of left it there.
What do you dislike about it?
I don't know. It doesn't feel aesthetic to me, I guess. And maybe it's something about the right hand turn that it makes in the poem. But I think it starts to make you think because of the way I wrote it, as opposed to just go with it. Everything else is more sort of straightforward.
Does it come with the rest of the poem?
What do you mean?
I want to say part of it. It seemed rather abrupt and out of the blue, maybe.
Yeah, that's definitely how I wrote it. Yeah, I didn't piece it together. Okay.
I like those songs.
So a constraint for this week is to print a poem that you like of any length.
The printed poem.
Print.
Okay.
Of any length. And the constraint is that you are the constrainer. And so you will take a marker and excise, what's the word they use in government documents where they black out things? Redact. Yeah. So you will redact any parts of it. It could be giant chunks. It could be a word or two. It could be parts of the title. So the only tool that you use once it's printed is the marker, let's say. but you don't add anything, right? So you don't add a word or a phrase or whatever. And the idea is to arrive at a different poem.
Nice.
So let's say, for example, the poem was titled "To Love Again." You could just excise "again," and that immediately changes the whole poem, right? And it could be just that you're excising everything but the words that you want to highlight or phrases.
For extra credit, come up with 2 poems. One, the excised words, and one, the non-excised words.
Yes.
So arriving at a different poem, I just want to make sure I understand the constraint. So not adding anything, arrive at a different
Correct.
poem. Okay, gotcha. Very cool.
Right. So it's like what I refer to it as sculpture. Like I'm taking everything away that isn't the poem that I see.
Uh-huh.
Does that make
Nice.
sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And the last offering for this week is an acrostic. And the acrostic is redact.
Have you written it?
I have not. I just typed it right now, but I will. I could right now if you want.
Acrostic is redact.
Sound good?
Yes.
And if anybody writes any of these and you want to send them to me, then I can try and append them to the classroom and or to the post when we post.
So we can take a picture of the printed poem, redacted, and send it and post it.
Yeah, I assume the redacted would have to be like a photo, kind of. You know, the only way I assume to get it across.
Okay. Sounds like fun.
Okay, I like it. Everybody's got a couple different ideas now. Well,
Okay.
we chatted with Jean before we started tonight, and she was really ongoingly grateful to have us here, and pleasant and welcoming and warming. Wanted to say thanks to her, and she wanted to say thanks to us.
Oh, that's sweet. Nice.
Harry's got one to
not to read.
sing
I
us
just want to say that redact, the word, has the first letters of chocolate and echolocate.
It does. It exactly does. Well, thank you all.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much. Bye, Sarah. Bye, Harry.